Hi, my name is Brooke Weber, and my action research proposal was about how flipped classrooms impact student engagement and academic achievement. So my action research study is about how flipped learning impacts academic achievement and student engagement compared to traditional learning. Specifically, this takes place in a middle school setting, and it tests how flipped classrooms impact eighth grade students' learning compared to a traditional classroom. So this specifically involves two eighth grade United States history courses. It's comparing a control group to an experimental group that uses a flipped classroom model. So I want to understand if flipped classrooms increase academic achievement and student engagement compared to a traditional classroom setting among middle school social studies students. So I'm very passionate about the concept of a flipped classroom. I want to utilize this classroom structure in the future. Specifically, a flipped classroom is when students utilize technology to learn basic academic concepts for homework. Then when they're in class, they're able to extend their knowledge by using higher order thinking skills and participating in student-centered active learning opportunities with the help from the instructor and their classmates. So my action research study will take place in San Juan Unified School District at Andrew Carnegie Middle School in Sacramento County in Northern California. So a flipped classroom is a relatively new phenomenon. There's very limited research on the effectiveness of flipped classrooms in a middle school setting. So my action research study will contribute to the limited research about the effectiveness of flipped classrooms in middle school. And there is specifically not a lot of research on the effectiveness of flipped classrooms in social studies as well. So my research will contribute to the limited research in flipped classrooms in social studies as well as middle school education. So for my problem, I focused on how a traditional classroom setting focuses on teacher-centered direct instructional strategies like lectures. This results in students passively learning and not truly applying their knowledge in class. In contrast, a flipped classroom helps students apply their knowledge by participating in student-centered, collaborative, and active learning opportunities where they can use higher order thinking skills. So I related this to Bloom's taxonomy, which is a hierarchical pyramid of cognitive skills. The lower level skills is knowledge and comprehension, while higher order thinking skills are at the top of the pyramid, which consists of application, analysis, synthesis, and evaluation. So in a traditional classroom, students are not able to use higher order thinking skills. It's focused primarily on the teacher delivering subject matter content to students. Students only complete lower level cognitive tasks in a traditional classroom like knowledge and comprehension. So in a flipped classroom, this removes direct instructional strategies and students are able to use higher order thinking skills in class. They complete lower level cognitive tasks like basic knowledge and comprehension outside of class by watching lecture videos and completing simple recall learning activities for homework. This helps them when they get to class, they're able to extend their knowledge of this basic understanding of concepts that they learned at home. They're able to extend their knowledge in class, in the classroom, by participating in active, cooperative, student-centered learning activities that help them use higher order thinking skills. When they use these higher order thinking skills in a flipped classroom, they're able to truly extend their academic knowledge and be engaged in learning. So my research questions are, how does a flipped classroom impact academic achievement and student engagement among eighth grade social studies students compared to a traditional classroom? And do eighth grade students prefer learning in a flipped classroom compared to a traditional classroom? So my action research study is going to use a mixed methods research design. So it'll use both quantitative and qualitative data collection methods. It tests how a flipped classroom impacts eighth grade social studies students' academic achievement and student engagement compared to a traditional classroom. It'll collect quantitative data from average assessment scores and Likert type response scales on student surveys. It'll also collect qualitative data from teacher interviews, classroom observation, field notes, and open-ended responses on student surveys. It'll take place over a 5-month timeline from August, the beginning of an academic school year, until December. So the participants inside of my action research proposal is an experienced history teacher and 8th grade students in 2 United States history courses at Andrew Carnegie Middle School. Each class is going to take a pre-test to make sure that the two groups are academically similar and can be compared in the action research study. The control group will be compared to an experimental group that used a flipped classroom structure to understand how flipped classrooms impact 8th grade students' academic achievement and student engagement compared to a traditional classroom model. So I'm not sure in my material section whether I need to be more specific about the technology that will be used to analyze and find comparisons in the data to make sure it's valid and reliable. I'm not sure if I need to be more specific about the technology. So for my procedure, I'll use quantitative data to collect quantitative data from average assessment scores to understand how flipped classrooms impact student academic achievement. This will provide information about whether students in the flipped classroom do better on assessments than students in the traditional classroom. Quantitative data will also be collected from Likert type response skills on student surveys. This will provide important information about how flipped learning impacts student engagement and whether students prefer flipped learning compared to traditional learning. Qualitative data will also be collected from teacher interviews, classroom observation, field notes, and open-ended responses on student surveys. So the teacher interviews will provide a professional perspective and insight into whether the flipped classroom structure increases student engagement compared to a traditional classroom structure. Qualitative data will also be collected from observations and field notes that provides insights into specific actions and behaviors. This can be used as evidence into whether flipped classrooms increase student engagement compared to the traditional classroom. Qualitative data will also be collected from open-ended responses on student surveys, which will provide insight into whether the students in the flipped classroom prefer flipped learning compared to traditional learning, as well as how flipped classrooms impact student engagement. So quantitative data will be collected from student assessment scores. It will use an independent measures t-test to understand if one group performs significantly better than the other group. Quantitative data will also be collected from Likert type response skills and will be properly coded and put into various categories. I'm not sure if I need to be more specific about how the data is going to be coded and what categories it's going to be put into. So the qualitative data will be triangulated to understand if there's consistency between the participants' behaviors and their comments. And it will be coded and put into several themes. Again, I'm not sure if I need to be more specific about how it's coded and what themes it's put into. The qualitative data will be triangulated to make sure the data collected is valid and reliable. I want to let you know that my teacher stated that quantitative data can also be triangulated in qualitative data. So I'm not sure if I need to include my quantitative data collection measures as well into how my data is triangulated. I also want to point out there's a couple times that I say I'm going to test a hypothesis, and my teacher stated that action research does not test hypotheses, so I need to take the hypothesis part out. And I also want to point out that my teacher said in the previous class that there's too many words in my abstract and that my abstract needs to be written in past tense. So there's a little sum up about my project about flipped classrooms. I'm excited to improve my action research study and learn more about the effectiveness of flipped classrooms compared to traditional classrooms. Thank you.